Hello, welcome. Today we're diving into The History of the Standard Oil Company by Ida M. Tarbell, a classic of investigative reporting that reads like a business detective story. I'll walk you through how Standard Oil rose to dominate the oil business, the often shady tactics it used, and why Tarbell's painstaking expose helped change how Americans viewed big corporations and how we regulate them. Think of this as a clear, friendly tour. Little scenes, real human stakes, and a few hard lessons about power, transparency, and what happens when business becomes too big for its britches. 1. Who was Ida Tarbell and why she wrote this book? Mini title: A Reporter with a Mission. Ida Tarbell wasn't just a critic with a grudge, she was a careful reporter. Trained in the new craft of muckraking journalism, she spent years digging through court records, railroad accounts, company papers, and interviews. She serialized her findings in magazines, then collected them into this book. Her reporting was rooted in evidence and stories from people on the ground: refinery workers, small oil men, railroad clerks. And that mix of documents plus eyewitness accounts is what made her case persuasive. Tarbell's work felt urgent because many ordinary people already had a sense something was wrong. Small businesses being pushed out, prices fluctuating strangely, and railroad deals that seemed to favor the powerful. Tarbell gave those feelings shape and proof. 2. The rise of Standard Oil, not just a good idea, but a machine. Mini title: From Garage to Giant. Standard Oil didn't become a behemoth by accident. John D. Rockefeller and his partners started by seeking efficiency, better refining processes, standard grades of kerosene, careful bookkeeping. Those elements, better product, careful cost control, are perfectly legitimate. But Tarbell shows the story has two sides. Rockefeller combined two strategies: consolidation and control. He bought rival refineries, that's consolidation, and he sought control over the ways oil got from well to market: pipelines, tank cars, and railroad transport. Over time, through purchases and secret deals, his company began to look less like a business and more like a system that could quietly decide who made money and who didn't. 3. How the game was played: rebates, secret deals, and exclusion. Mini title: Rules with One Side. One of the most important themes in Tarbell's book is the way Standard Oil used its influence over railroads. Railroads charged shippers a standard rate, but Standard Oil negotiated special rebates, refunds on portions of freight charges, and sometimes secret drawbacks, payments the railroad gave back on oil carried for competitors. Those arrangements made Standard's shipping costs far lower than a small refiner's. Imagine two stores selling the same loaf of bread, but one gets a discount from the delivery company that the other doesn't know about. The discount lets the favorite store undersell the other until the competitor collapses. That's essentially what Tarbell documents. And the harm wasn't just to competitors, it warped the whole market. Tarbell also describes covert tactics: buying decisive stakes in rail lines, shaping price lists, use of confidential contracts, and even secret short-term price wars to flush rivals out. It was persuasion, pressure, and sometimes legal gray areas stacked into a system that worked in Standard Oil's favor. 4. Horizontal and vertical mastery: owning both the market and the pipe. Mini title: Owning the product and the pipe. Tarbell explains two big technical terms in plain language: horizontal integration and vertical integration. Horizontal integration is buying out competitors in the same business. Rockefeller bought other refineries until Standard was the dominant refiner. Vertical integration is buying the steps up and down the chain: wells, pipelines, tank cars, retail, so you don't depend on outside suppliers. When a company controls both the factories and the roads that carry the goods, it becomes very hard for outsiders to compete. Tarbell shows how the combination of both strategies is what made Standard truly formidable. It could set prices, choose distributors, and starve rivals of access without ever appearing to break a single written rule. 5. The human side. Small men, big consequences. Mini title. Faces behind the numbers. Tarbell doesn't only reproduce charts and contracts, she tells human stories. She profiles small refinery owners, independent oilmen, and workers whose livelihoods were destroyed when Standard undercut prices or secured exclusive shipping terms. Those people lost farms, factories, and hope. Their experience helps the reader feel what monopoly looks like on the ground. There's also a portrait of Rockefeller himself, a man of odd contrasts. Tarbell records his thrift and his careful bookkeeping, his attention to detail, and his brilliant organizational mind. But she also shows how his single-mindedness, combined with the structures he built, produced a system that crushed competition and curtailed choice. 6. Public outcry and political pressure. When people took notice. Mini title, From Suspicions to Scandal. When Tarbell's articles began to appear, they gave journalists, politicians, and the public a factual record to argue from. Her evidence helped transform a vague unease about trusts into a focused demand for action. People began to ask, if one company can quietly fix prices and control supply chains, how are consumers or small businesses protected? Tarbell's reporting amplified that question. Her work arrived at a moment when Americans were already debating the role of big business. The progressive era was gaining steam, reformers looking to reduce corruption, improve fairness, and make public life more transparent. Tarbell's book fed that movement with sharp, readable documentation. 7. The legal fight and the breakup. Law catches up. Mini title, When Courts Intervene. Tarbell's book didn't itself break Standard Oil, but it helped create the political climate that made legal action possible. In 1911, the U.S. Supreme Court, applying the Sherman Antitrust Act, ordered Standard Oil of New Jersey to be broken up into multiple companies because of its monopolistic practices. The breakup is a key historical endpoint. It's an example of law trying to restore competitive markets when business power had concentrated dangerously. Tarbell's Bellsworth was indirect, but real. She supplied the facts people used in debates and the popular pressure that made antitrust enforcement more politically feasible. 8. The complicated verdict, efficiency versus fair play. Mini title, Not a Simple Whodunit. Tarbell's careful to record complexities. Standard Oil did bring efficiencies, standardized kerosene, improved refining techniques, and cheaper fuel for households. Tarbell acknowledges these benefits. Her argument is not that large companies can never improve things, it's that progress shouldn't come at the cost of secret advantage and crushed competition. That tension between efficiency and fairness is the heart of her book. It's not an attack on innovation per se, it's an insistence that when innovation uses opaque power to exclude rivals and manipulate markets, democracy and a fair economy lose out. 9. Method and style. Why her work mattered. Mini title, Reporting that built its case. Tarbell's strength is method. She assembled contracts, corporate minutes, and railroad agreements. She interviewed insiders and followed money flows. Her prose is factual and narrative at once. She narrates episodes, the secret rebate schemes, risky price cuts, and she walks the reader through documents step by step. That mix of empirical detail and human storytelling made the scandal comprehensible to ordinary readers and convincing to reformers. Her model became a blueprint for investigative journalism. Show the facts, tell the stories, and let citizens decide. 10. Lasting lessons. Power, transparency, and the public good. Mini title, What Tarbell Still Teaches Us Today. So what should we carry from this book into our times? A few core lessons stand out. Transparency matters. Hidden contracts and secret rebates are a corruption of market logic. A healthy market needs clear rules and enforceable fairness. Size can be efficient and dangerous. Large scale enables innovation and lower costs, but unchecked concentration can stifle competition and democracy. Journalism can change the conversation. Careful, evidence-based reporting helped turn private practices into public policy. Regulation is not anti-business, it's pro-market. Rules that enforce competition can preserve the dynamism that lets new firms emerge and consumers benefit. Tarbell doesn't preach a single policy prescription. She offers a diagnostic. Her work pushed the country to ask whether the law and institutions were up to the task of balancing private ingenuity with public fairness. Wrap up, a case study in power and responsibility. And there you have it, the history of the Standard Oil Company in 15 minutes. Ida Tarbell's book is part detective story, part public case file. It tells us how one company built immense power through clever business practices, and how, when those practices relied on secrecy and exclusion, they invited scrutiny, critique, and ultimately legal correction. If you remember 3 things from this summary, let them be these. First, innovation without checks can become domination. Second, facts and clear storytelling can move public opinion and policy. And third, a healthy economy needs both efficiency and fairness. Thanks for listening. If this sparked questions about antitrust today, or you'd like a short script version for social clips, say the word. I'll happily create it.